Hello, good day my dear students, and welcome to Al-Nur Virtual Learning. I'm Mr. Kelvin, and welcome back to our science class. We are now in Chapter 5, Lesson 6, and it's about erosion and deposition. Textbook pages 237 to 241. So we do have here the learning objective. And the objective of today's lesson is to know how erosion and deposition can change Earth's surface. Here are the materials that you need. First is your textbook. We need also a pen or pencil, and also a highlighter if you want to highlight some words or important notes. So are you guys ready? Okay, so what do you mean by erosion? When we say erosion, it is the movement of materials away from a place. And what are the main agents of erosion? So we have water, wind, what else? Ice, and gravity. So these four are the main agents of erosion. Now, what is deposition? Deposition is the process of laying down materials such as rocks and soil. And deposition occurs when water creating the sediment slows down. When the wind carries the sediments dies down, and when the glacier carrying the sediment melts. So when these things are occurring, then deposition will be formed. Now let's proceed to the agent of erosion, which is water. Water is the main agent of erosion. Running water carries weathered pieces of rock from one location to another. It can carry big pieces of rock as well as smaller rock pieces and soil. It can also weather rock at the same time as it is eroding it or carrying it away. Now take a look at this picture. As you can see in here, rock is worn away or weathered at the same time that is carried away or eroded by fast-moving water. The rocks hit one another, causing them to break. Now we do have here another picture. So in this picture, you will notice that the fast-moving water can move or erode very large rocks, transporting them downhill along with smaller rocks. So as slow-moving river carries mainly pebbles, sand, silt, and clay, they are all sediments, so the slower water cannot carry, right? It cannot carry bigger rocks. Let me continue. As soon as the rushing water slows down, the larger pieces of weathered material it had been carrying is deposited. Now, kindly check this diagram. As can be seen by this diagram, as the water slows down, first the larger pieces fall out, and then as it flows slower and slower, smaller and smaller pieces are deposited. Soil and pebbles may be carried for a great distance as sediments in the river. And as we said before, as you can see in this picture, a river carrying a lot of sediment looks muddy. Shown here, sediments are being deposited at the mouth of a river in Lake Genoa. And when sediments like gravel and soil are deposited at the mouth of a river, a delta may be formed. Again, what will be formed? Yes, a delta may be formed. It becomes a fertile area to grow crops such as rice. Now pay attention with this picture. So when sediment deposited at the mouth of a river also may build a sandy beach. Some of the sediment carried by a river is deposited immediately at the mouth of the river. Most of the sediment is suspended in seawater and is carried along the coast by the longshore current, a stream of water flowing parallel to the beach. This current is created by waves breaking at an angle to shore. We have another agent here, agent of erosion, which is wind. Wind is the second agent of erosion. So as you can see in here, wind picks up small pieces of rock or soil and transport them from their source to another location where they are deposited. Okay, now, when the wind blows in the desert and sand is continuously deposited in different places, when the wind stops blowing, the new sand dunes may have been formed. Now, in this section, we will see mesas, buttes, arches, canyons, and other strange rock formations that were carried through both weathering and erosion. The wind's remarkable ability to sculpt such as odd and beautiful landforms is explained by the hardness of the rock involved. Some rocks are softer and weather faster than others. Take a little closer at this picture. So plateau with mesas, butte and gully. Here we have the mesas, as you can see in here, using that arrow. Then we have here the butte and the gully. There you have it. Okay, now here's a photo of a mesa. This is what is left of the plateau that made up this entire landform before weathering and erosion carried much of it away. Now, what could the red line be depicting in this picture? So this is a photo of buttes. So butte is an isolated hill with steep sides and a flat top. It is similar to but narrower than a mesa. But as you can see in this picture, maybe because of erosion and deposition, its top is no longer flat. Here's another picture. Picture of an arch. All these pictures, as you can see, are formations that were created both from that were created through both weathering and erosion. Here, we can see that weathering and erosion from these boulders is filling in the area beneath them. And maybe over hundreds or maybe thousands of years, it could have happened something like this. Take a look closely at this picture. Right? Do you agree with me? Maybe this kind of thing will happen. Moving on their way to the sea, some rivers wind across plateau, carving deep valleys and taking sediment downstream with them. Once the valley walls become exposed, these rocks are further weathered by the wind, rain, and changing temperatures. Over millions of years, these valleys become giant, majestic chasms called canyons. Now take a look at this picture. So this one is an example of canyon. It's called the Grand Canyon. Okay, now when the wind blows in the desert and sand is continuously... Okay, now to summarize our today's lesson, what do you mean again by erosion? Yes, you are right. Erosion is the movement of materials away from a place. Let me repeat. Erosion is the movement of materials away from a place. How about deposition? Deposition is the process of laying down materials such as rocks and soil. And what is the major agent of erosion? It's the running water. So running water is the major agent of erosion. And whenever the river slows down, some of the sediment is deposited on the bottom of the river. And the sediment that the river is able to carry to a lake or ocean is deposited at the mouth of the river and may form a delta or beach. And now, before I end, let me leave you the quote of the day. It's from Loyal Jack Duman. It says, "Never stop learning, for when we stop learning, we stop growing," right? So that would be all for today. Thank you, and I hope you learned something from this lesson. Goodbye. Till next time.